Yeah, welcome everyone. I thought maybe today, since what we are studying is 37 practices of a Bodhisattva, and these are Bodhisattva vows that it seems that the Dalai Lama ji, he takes them every day, he reads them every day. And it does help us to just refresh and remind that and set the intention right. So, if one of us can maybe read these vows for us, that would be nice today.
I can read it. May I be a guard for those who need protection, a guide for those on the path, a boat, a raft, a bridge for those who wish to cross the flood. May I be a lamp in the darkness, a resting place for the weary, a healing medicine for all who are sick, a vase of plenty, a tree of miracles, and for the boundless multitudes of living beings, may I bring sustenance and awakening, enduring like the earth and sky, until all beings are freed from sorrow and all are awakened. Ma'am, can I please read this one more time?
Yeah, sure.
May I be a guard for those who need protection, a guide for those on the path, a boat, a raft, a bridge for those who wish to cross the flood. May I be a lamp in the darkness, a resting place for the weary, a healing medicine for all who are sick, a vase of plenty, a tree of miracles, and for the boundless multitudes of living beings, may I bring sustenance and awakening, enduring like the earth and sky, until all beings are freed from sorrow and all are awakened. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So, with that, now we can read the opening aspiration and then start with the verse today. Yeah, if anyone else wants to read this for us, please do that.
Yeah, I can read it. Yeah.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. It's okay. Somebody else, please. My
No,
father is on call.
you can be that somebody else. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Yeah. With boundless compassion and wisdom, I will work for the welfare of all. May we be free from hunger and discord and have joy and a world at peace.
Yeah, thank you. So we were on verse 6. We have to start with verse 6 today. Last time we finished touching upon verse 5. So this one is about relying on spiritual teachers. Let us go through this and see what it gives us. Yeah. So anyone who was in the line of wanting to read, you can unmute and go ahead, please.
Yeah, relying on spiritual teachers. Through reliance on a true spiritual friend, one's faults will fade. All good qualities will grow like a waxing moon. To consider him even more precious than one's own body is the practice of a Bodhisattva. Where verse 5 dealt with people who are bad company for us, this verse deals with good friends. The ultimate good friends are like the Buddhas, the Bodhisattvas, and one's spiritual teachers. They are obviously the kind of company we should hang out with. But true spiritual friends doesn't just mean those kinds of people. It also means other companions on the path, whichever path they are going on, if it is a good path, and who therefore demonstrate for us genuine goodness. Should I continue? His Holiness the Dalai Lama again and again talks about cultivating a good heart, and this is what we are trying to do here. Therefore, we should try to associate as much as possible with people who are good-hearted because they remind us how to act in situations where we are not feeling very good-hearted. Then we can improve ourselves again. This is about changing and improving. We have to surround ourselves, or at least associate whenever possible, with people who exemplify what we are aiming for and remind us of how it can be.
Yeah, feel free to share anyone with anything.
Um, I'd like to share. So for me, this gives me almost a visual of, how they talk about the workplace. You don't dress up for the job that you currently have, but you dress up for the job that you want to have. So similarly, if we associate with the kind of people who bring out the best in us and who always, what should I say? Who sort of spur us to be better versions and that we can constantly improvise, I think that is really good company. And I just absolutely love both the verses, both the paras, especially the latter one, where it talks about how we can improve ourselves and that we should be constantly changing and improving. So like what we talked about last time, where it was the flip side of the bad company, we become who we associate ourselves with. So I absolutely love this and can totally relate to this. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else wants to add on or share anything in these two paragraphs?
Yeah, the second paragraph, first line about a good heart. One of the most beautiful things about Jetsunma, whenever if you're ever listening to her, she'll be talking about things, of course, which sound a bit tough at times. And then she'll see a confused look on your face or an intimidated look, and she'll be like, okay, forget everything, just have a good heart. And I think this is what we forget most of the times when we are doing our everyday tidbits, comments, judgments, living our lives, disciplining children, or communicating what is right with such zeal and enthusiasm that we forget what is the center I am operating from and what is the center I would like to operate on. Again, that quote that Rumi says, right, that out beyond the ideas of wrongdoings and right doings, there's a field, I'll meet you there, right? But being myself, being how I am raised, everything has to have a right or a wrong, अच्छा हुआ बुरा हुआ, ठीक है गलत है. And then I'm so much struggling between these things that it's now a default pattern. And a lot of times I would, I don't even realize that there's no love there, right? Right, wrong, right, wrong, right, wrong. But where is the love? Where's the heart? So I guess this reminder again and again that, what do I ultimately want? Okay, I'm doing this with my child. I'm doing this with my friend. I'm doing this with my sister or my partner, like ye kharab hai, wo kharab hai. But what am I operating on? What is important to me? क्या सही होना बहुत जरूरी है? मतलब, what is more important? We don't ask that question. So yeah, I'm just repeating myself. But yeah, just that about cultivating a good heart and the center that I'm operating from. Is it based on love, ethics, moralities, discipline, or what?
Yeah, I think it's a very difficult balance to find because, see, with mother, say Divine Mother, Ma, you know, we have different forms and aspects of the mother. We have the aspect of Mahakali, who out of her love destroys, है ना. तो वही अब इसमें वही है ना कि आउटर अपीयरेंस दिख रही है कि भैया ये तो वध हो रहा है असुरों का, यहाँ पे कहाँ तुम्हारा प्यार है, बट ये नहीं पता लग रहा कि वो वध में ही लिबरेशन है, राइट. सो I feel that even as a biological mother or caretaker or parent or whatever, I feel that at times, for example, if a child is running on a road, not listening to the mother whose hand he was holding, mother, out of the good heart and wanting to protect, will give him a slap and, like pull him aside, right. So now I wonder, because at times it's very difficult to see, okay, where was the good heart. So the inner intention, who only I would know what is my inner intention, was it to prove myself right, as you were sharing, or was it actual benefit of the child? And at times, for the actual benefit of child, I may snatch away the lollipop, you know but the child may say, how cruel, your mother. But that's, good heart, that's love, because we know that, not good for whatever, all we know that reasons, and at times we may offer a lollipop. So, है ना, मतलब इसका वही है कि it's a very intricate balance, and that is why with Mother Shri Aurobindo, the first step they say that, okay, first step, integral yoga, find your soul consciousness, get in touch with psychic being, because that is the ultimate guide which we have, the inner compass, which tells, okay, how to walk on this thin, one can say, line, or this, one can say, the threshold of right, wrong, or and although mother says that, I don't like to use the aspect of Mahakali, I would prefer Mahalakshmi, abundance, and yet progress is happening. But we know that at times we need Mahakali also, So destruction has to happen. The old forms have to destroy themselves so that a clear ground is made for the new to be. तो अब उसमें क्या बोलोगे, है ना, गुड हार्ट, है ना, वही मतलब ऊपर ऊपर से लगता है हाउ ट्रेजिक when destruction happens, how tragic, but we don't know how much love that is there behind that destruction. Yeah, so just giving like this additional kind of aspect to this, that it's a thin line and only one would know, I would know, you know, what was, as you were sharing, my center of operation, and only I would know that. Yeah. Again, I think lots of vigilance is required, because who will judge whether this was coming out of a good heart, bad heart, ill will, good will? And we most of the times are fooling ourselves. We all know, you know, we may share with something, someone, you know, we are sharing something to a relative, to a sibling, to thinking that अरे तेरे फायदे के लिए तो कह रहा हूँ, you know, but उसके पीछे कोई एजेंडा छुपा हुआ है, हमें खुद ही नहीं पता होता, और फिर बड़ा मूड अपसेट होता है कि देख मेरी बात नहीं सुनी, मैंने तो इतने हित में कहा था उसके. सो जहाँ पे मूड अपसेट हो रहा है, इसका मतलब पक्का सेंटर ऑफ ऑपरेशन ठीक नहीं था, मेरा खुद का ही, नो. सो and otherwise, as we have been reading also again and again in the sessions, that a true spiritual friend, a companion, true spiritual companion, would have a sense of disinterestedness. So he may offer some suggestion, he may offer whatever, but since still there is a disinterest, you know, because he knows that there is a larger thing to every little thing, you know. So if the friend doesn't follow the guidance, it doesn't matter, you know. So my identity, my sense of self is not attached to whether the friend follows something or doesn't follow something. Usually our friendships are like that, कि देख उसने मेरी बात नहीं मानी, कुट्टी, 2 दिन की कुट्टी. Yeah, so yeah, it's a very interesting thing to explore, you know, who would be a true spiritual companion. Yes, Jasmine. Okay, by mistake, it feels.
I no, it's
Yeah, yeah.
not by mistake actually.
Oh, wow.
Oh, video on होगी गलती से होगी. This is by
नहीं,
mistake.
अच्छा 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 लग रहा है आपको देख के, बोलो बोलो.
No, I was just thinking now you brought out the thing about friends, right? There is a thin line who's the true companion or not. And obviously हम सारे इतने बुद्धा तो बन नहीं गए कि हमारी intentions इतनी clear होंगी, mixture में होंगी. But I think somewhere there's a thin line there कि sometimes a friend just needs, we just offer advice so much or offer that so much with a good intention, obviously, again, at least jahan pe, wherever we are. But sometimes वो person इतनी advice देता रहता है कि all you want, you know, there's a, what I mean is thin line between acceptance and that advice, which I often find, me myself included, and with my relationships and friends and family who like to talk about spiritual sutta, like to talk about spiritual growth, but sometimes it feels like, oh, bandi nahi ho raha, okay, I don't, like it's almost becomes like a habitual thing, which I find interesting in my personal thing. I find it too, okay, when you know, when you said कि ये सुनता नहीं है, I would say सुनते नहीं है, and they would say ये हमेशा यही correct ही करते, sort of like correcting, right? They might not take it as growth. So there is a fine line there. Sometimes there's, I'm just talking in terms of practical this thing, not exactly related to this verse, but that's what came to my mind.
Yeah. भगवान ने हमको 2 कान दिए, एक मुंह दिया है.
Exactly.
भूल जाते हैं हम कि 2 मुंह नहीं है, एक 2 मुंह और 1 कान नहीं है. एक्चुअली में एक मुंह और दो कान है, बट ऑल ऑफ अस फॉरगेट, दैट्स द ब्यूटी ऑफ इट, यू नो.
Yeah, I think we go on spiritual high or something sometimes, you
या
know, and
या
just then वो normal सा बंदा एक थप्पड़ से ही मारता है, but in their own way, like they
अच्छा है,
get
आई थिंक
crazy,
सबके
but
लिए
then
अच्छा
you're
है.
like,
हाँ नहीं, आई थिंक भी ये थप्पड़ खाना जरूरी है हम सबके लिए. और क्या क्या हर्ज है, थप्पड़ खा लो, मतलब कितने थप्पड़ खाए हैं लाइफ में, और खा लो. मतलब क्या प्रॉब्लम है थप्पड़ खाने में, है ना. इट बिल्ड्स इंड्योरेंस
this
ओनली.
is,
अच्छा, दो में फर्क ही नहीं
yeah.
पड़ा, पहले तो पड़ जाता था. चारों खाने जित हो जाते थे दो से, अब दो में भी खड़े हुए हैं, है ना,
But
डिसइंटरेस्टेड हो रहे
you
हैं.
know, yeah, but in that sense, I think what this also brings me back to ki it's more important for me to embody that and exemplify that than more so talk. And then when you are more into that, when you're more centered in yourself, I think then you are better to judge. Now, I mean, again, it's not just transaction, it's not just about you, it's
Yes,
about the other person too.
yes,
But I think I'm coming more to more, it's more about what you are, and your presence
ब्यूटीफुल,
itself can make
ब्यूटीफुल.
huge difference. इसलिए
ऑफ
मेरे पास अभी
कोर्स.
ज्यादा बोलने के लिए है नहीं
Yes,
आप
yes,
दोनों
yes, yes. No, that's true. That resonates. No? But I think it's all phases. At times we are not talking about spirituality. We don't want to hear anything. Then at times we have this high that you were sharing. You know, oh spirituality. ये पढ़ा वो पढ़ा. You know, देखो क्या कह रहे हैं वो सर्वप्रियानंद जी और you know all the masters that are there. And then of course people get frustrated with us. And then we think that ये हो क्या रहा है. You know, ये उल्टा थप्पड़ मुझे ही पड़ रहा है. So and then maybe you know that phase comes where we want to embody it now, you know, and live it rather than maybe all the time blabber about it. So I think these are all right, these are all having a right place in our progress. ऐसा नहीं कह सकते कि एक गंदा है दूसरा अच्छा है. मतलब जब वो बेचारा था तो तब वो एक तरह से वो बेबी स्टेप आगे ही था हमारे लिए, है ना, पिछली लाइफ से. तो वो जो स्पिरिचुअल हाई थी वो एक स्टेप आगे ही तो था, है ना. उससे मैं कहीं बढ़ी तो सही आगे. अब ठीक है, अब थप्पड़ पड़ गया तो ठीक है, वो स्पिरिचुअल लो में चला गया, लेकिन अब मैं आई वांट टू एम्बॉडी इट, यू नो, आई डोंट वांट टू टॉक अबाउट इट, आई वांट टू बी इट. सो अगेन दैट्स अ ब्यूटीफुल स्टेप. और उसके आगे मे बी आई डोंट इवन वांट टू बी इट, गॉड नोज व्हाट हैपेंस.
No, I think अब इतने I think it actually does feel like Leela again, right? कि पता नहीं अब आगे देखते हैं क्या होता है. So you does bring lightness. But I think somewhere, yeah, but this is all part, like you said, it's phases. कभी daily है तो कभी monthly है तो कभी weekly है, but I guess we just have to keep going.
Yeah, yeah. आई थिंक ये हमारे साथ काफ़ी इंटरेस्टिंग सी चीज़ होती है सबके साथ ही, कि हमें खुद अपने वो फेजेस याद नहीं रहते जब हमने भी ये सब किया हुआ है, और जब कोई दूसरा कर रहा होता है ना तो हमें बड़ा गुस्सा आता है, फ्रस्ट्रेशन होती है कि ये कर क्या रहा है. मतलब भूल जाते हैं कि अच्छा हमने भी तो किया हुआ है. So everybody has the right freedom to grow, you know, like at times we may get just sick of shopping. You know, a time comes in our life that too much consumerism, you have lived through that. Now when the other person is living through that, you are saying अरे तू कर क्या रही है, इतना खरीदेगी कितना खरीदेगी. You know, ये भूल जाते हैं कि हम भी मंडराए जाते थे, हम भी you know दिखते थे हमेशा शॉपिंग मॉल्स में. So I think these are the phases that we all have to go through, and somehow we can't discount them. We just have to. And also honoring others. That if I honor my own phases in life, then I also should honor others' phases in life. That would be a good heart. Yeah. Yeah. Anyone else wants to add on anything here? Yeah, so good heart, then we can also, since just kind of retouching upon that, that we can also relate a good heart with being non-judgmental about, you know, not making categories that, oh, now I am in this spiritual elitist category and the others are in materialist categories. Because knowing, and we can't do that actually, because when our vision grows from within, we come to know and come to realize that everything has a proper place. Everything. So then slowly, that judgment kind of drops itself off. And when the judgment goes away, it doesn't mean that the discernment is not there. I think we have touched upon that earlier. There is a fine line of distinction between judging and discerning. Discerning what is good for me, what is bad for me, and judging people based on their behavior. That is, there are two different things which we must be aware of. So when we are talking about being non-judgmental and not putting people into categories, we are not saying that be dumb and you not use your discernment. By all means, we have to preserve our sanity and peace. And if I feel that, okay, this is a place which doesn't suit me, it doesn't mean that I'm judging those people. It just means that I don't want to be there. Because I honor my whatever the phase that is going through, and I honor their phase also. So that would be discernment. And I think we should not leave. At times it happens that अरे यार तू जज क्यों कर रहा है, मैं शराब पी रहा हूँ, तू जज क्यों कर रहा है ना? तो वो एकदम से हम उसको ट्वीक कर देते हैं अपने हिसाब से. भाई अगर मेरा बेस्ट फ्रेंड शराब में अपने आप को डुबो रहा है, तो मैं डिसर्न में जज भी ना करूं कि ये कर क्या रहा है. What kind of a friend am I? So yeah, just I think we had touched upon judging and discerning once.
I think the point, oh, sorry, Jasmine, please.
No, I was just thinking when she was saying that, I think wahan pe I personally feel that it might be judgment, but it's also, it's where my limitation lies too. I don't have the capacity sometimes to hold and not get impacted by that. The other company, which I might say bad, or other person not behaving in a way that's impacting me negatively. How you were saying कि like कोई शराब पी रहा है या कोई, in such sense it might sound like judgment, it might be my discernment, but there's a part of me which feels like I think that aspiration is there where I feel it's not about judging them right and wrong, but kind of like, I don't think I can word it right. It'll come to me. I'll share. Sorry. Taru, go ahead. I think it'll come to me. Sorry. I think I'm still in the thought process.
Yeah. Yeah, I just really resonated, and it is very recently that I realized, what you were sharing about the one who doesn't honor the same things, say space, time, inner voice, for example, for themselves, they would not be able to honor it for anybody else. So I think again, this thing about, it goes both ways, right? That firstly, if I am allowing myself the right to make mistakes, or if I made mistakes, or if I say that, okay, I don't want to do this because I'm not feeling like it, like something doesn't feel right. Then when the other is saying that, then I won't think, nahi, 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 aaja, kar le. I would hold that into a position of sanctity. Okay, if you're not feeling like it, good for you. You can see that difference. And plus, I think, although it's talking about others, which again is a very good component, but more than anything, I think everything comes down to me, right? Like, what company am I being to myself? Like last time we discussed that the worst company is of our own stories, of our own mind, right? Then the best company can also be of my maybe stepping back from the stories, realizing what's happening, and then choosing. Because this judgment and discernment also, like what you were saying, it's a continuous process. Like one doesn't realize that again, how that little bit of judgment of, or that little bit of, okay, but मेरे को तो ऐसा नहीं होता, या but मैं तो ऐसा नहीं करता, kind like there is something that comes in. One has to again just say कि अच्छा, अगर ये thought भी आ रहा है कि मुझे तो ऐसा, तो मतलब वहीं पर हो. It's like that if I'm judging, like if I have to judge, like if I must judge, let me judge myself, right? If I must make comments or say good or bad, let it be on me, because abhi mere mein hi बहुत ज़्यादा अभी, like it's like you were saying about spiritual. Okay, now I have that spiritual ego or that spiritual thing, but again, how it's said that the further I go, the more I realize how far I am, right? Like if you're actually living it, the more you feel you are doing, the less you feel that you have done, right? Honestly, it's like, oh my God, it's too much. Like I have not even started. And the one who might not have started would have said, "Ki, mere mein problem kya hai?" It's all perfection. So whenever this thought comes, if I look inside, there is something that is sitting and saying, ki, हाँ, मतलब there is a feeling of superiority which is not needed, which can be offered, because that again will be the reason for my suffering and downfall. So catching it as soon as it springs up, it does. But offering is what I can do so that, yeah, less and less it operates.
I think this thing of judgment, I'm not sure, at least I can speak for myself. I'm not sure if I can ever come to a stage where I'm not being judgmental at all. I think all humans at some point or the other in their life, to whichever degree, are judgmental. Even to say, who is to judge what is good or bad? Like, through which lens are we? Who is saying this, that this is good and this is bad? That also is judgment. And what could be good for me could be bad for you, and vice versa. That's one thing. The other thing I feel is that with when we say a good heart, I sometimes also think about this is good heart, not just towards others, but towards ourselves too. To show ourselves love and compassion too, because sometimes we are very good for others, but we forget ourselves. You know how they talk about pouring from an empty cup, and keep your cup full before you try to pour it for others. And the other thing about is I also think about boundaries. It's growing up in India and now living here in Canada, I feel like I'm almost like a split personality, because I have to sort of balance very finely how I've been brought up, that cultural aspect of it, where maybe there were not very many boundaries. And then when I come here and, to speak to this, like if someone's drinking or smoking or what have you, and I have to very delicately approach it, because here it's different, the dynamics. We always talk about what's in our control and what's not in our control. So even if my friend, and it's not to say that, you'll always come from a good place, maybe when you're telling a friend not to smoke or drink, because you don't want him or her to waste themselves away. So because you are looking out for their well-being, you say it. So you can only say to a certain thing, like, how you're mentioning before that I can only tell you that much. It's like I always reminded what my dad tells me, that you can take the horse to the well, but you can't make it drink. So everybody will have their stage in life. Like, I've been a late bloomer. So it's not that people didn't give me their well-meaning advice, and maybe coming from a good place of intent or not, I can't say that, but mostly good. However, I took my time. It's not that I wasn't hearing that advice like for decades. But then it was my time when I decided that, okay, I have to make that change. So I think somewhere that realization also has to be innate. कोई कुछ भी आपको बोल सकता है, but आप में वो होना चाहिए कि आपको realize हो, ठीक है, सबसे पहले ये कहाँ से आ रहा है, या ये मुझे क्यों ये कह रहा है. And agar hai bhi intent, I think if that advice, if I just look at the advice, forget about the intent, if I can discern that, yes, this is good advice for me, this is helping me grow and become a better individual, I'll take it. Doesn't matter where it's coming from. Doesn't matter maybe how it's being said. But that, for me, takes a lot of practice, right? Because the first thing I'll become is defensive. So these are just all things that I'm thinking about, the boundaries and, how much is in your control, where should you step, because everybody has their bubble and you don't want to step into their bubble. And here, like what was so normal when I was living in India, like, how we give unsolicited advice for the most part, as you're always looking out for other people with no permission. Here you have to ask permission. Like, you're just like a guide. You just don't give it just freely. You ask them, like it's almost like a permission seeking, before you're giving your advice. So just all these things that I was thinking about as we were discussing.
India, I feel, has a very special root. Although we may say that in India we keep on giving each other unsolicited advice, but in India I feel there is a general receptivity also, because of our spiritual roots, which we may not be overtly spiritual. I don't even know that I am spiritual, and yet there is a receptivity in the being. It is actually, I'm seem biased, but it is very special to India. And that is why if you see in research areas, I have been from research side, biology and whatever, the biological research, and there are labs. So Westerners, they are very happy with Indian students. Why? Because they can work like really very receptive mules and asses. And that's what they need, because they want hard work. So, of course, it's the extreme side of it that you, as you were sharing, there are many parts to it. So there are no boundaries. You get yourself to be exploited. But I think there is also a positive side to that, which is this receptivity that we have. It's very easy to just keep giving advice to each other, and you pick up something. As you were sharing that, then if I know that, oh, there is something good in this advice, then I would not even care where it is coming from. I would just pick it. So I think it's a very something very positive. Of course, there are many negatives with ads, as with every culture, but there are also like deep positives here because of our openness and receptivity and maybe groundedness, because what we see in India we don't see elsewhere. People from west, they are shocked that how can this happen, on a road. A person is going in Mercedes and a person who is without any meal, same. And then other people walking around who were not touched by it. Some are touched by it, some are not. How is this possible? It is possible. And there I think, if we go into the spiritual again aspect of it, we see that what Sri Aurobindo in his vastness and wideness shares about theory of how the rebirth happens and how each soul chooses its own experiences. So if a person is a king maybe in previous life, he may now choose to be having an extreme full of poverty life just to experience. And then everything has a proper place. Yes, there can be a person begging, and there can be a person going in Mercedes or wherever, in full luxury, side to side, homeless, and then Antilla, like a mansion, and next to it, homeless. Because the theory that we grew up or we grow up, not all of us, but the theories which are around us, they say that each soul chooses its own experiences. Many souls come like heroic souls, they actually come for a very short time, and they just want to wake the humanity up. So they'll, some tragedy, some severe tragedy, like some rape case or something, which shocks the entire nation, and then they're gone. But what they did is they woke up the sleeping nation. So on a lower, little window, it may seem that how horrid, how can these things happen? But if we see the larger plan, it's because of our numbness that these things have to happen, so that we wake up, that what are we doing? What kind of a life are we living? So really, if many things don't make sense, but then we look at the larger picture, and the very best way to look at the larger picture is to get in touch with our soul consciousness. It is wanting effort, but that's a very good way. It's a practical way. Otherwise we may have just talking about theories and Okay, this is what one philosophy says, this is what other philosophy says, but it's all philosophy for me. I have not realized it for myself. But we have to actually realize this for ourselves, to be able to practically see the larger picture, that yes, it makes sense fully. Yes, it makes sense that I know that I am not dying when the body ends. So practically, not only in mentally, intellectually, and that only happens when we get in touch with our soul consciousness. Otherwise, of course, there is no end to uh, just discussing, reflecting, ruminating, which has its proper place, of course. But how long shall we just be on that surface? Kabir ji says, Nij sukh atam ram hai, duja dukh apar. So the moment we go to anybody other, what you were sharing earlier, Taru, that it's about me, I have to again and again come back to myself. Because the moment we begin to judge others, although completely resonating that a little level of judgment will always be there, and it's not judgment, I would say it's more on the lines of discerning, that what is good for me, what is benefiting me, what is not benefiting me. And patterns of judgments may be there, but I don't have to follow their dictates. Categories the mind may be making as a default, like tuck 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 tuck, putting everybody in boxes, but I don't have to buy it. It is just older patterns. So one has to come back to ourselves, because that something is waiting for us, like a beggar sitting on a treasure dug deep under where he sits. We have to find that treasure, and it is a tangible treasure that we find when we get in touch with something deeper within, which gives us that fulfillment that we are seeking always outside. And then, of course, good heart comes by nature, by side effect of it. It's not as difficult as it may sound at times, that, oh my God, soul consciousness, how do I get in touch with? At times it may sound complicated, but it's just a matter of how badly I want it now. That agar hai to kahan hai, mujhe bhi dekhna hai. That curiosity which we have for other people's lives, that we need to have for our own self. नित्सु खातम राम है, दूजा दुख अपार, मनसा वाचा कर्मना, kabir sumiran sar. So he says, your coming back to yourself is the best possible sukh that you can get. Nij sukh atam ram hai, and it is found when you come back home to yourself. Duja dukh apar, whenever we are about others and me and other, my storyline, others did this to me, that to me, look what others are doing, that is dukh. We all know how it makes us suffer. Mansa vacha karmana, mansa is the mind, thoughts, vacha is our speech, karmana is our actions, body, mind, speech, our actions, mind, and mansa, mind, vacha, speech, and actions. Kabir Sumiran Sar means always have remembrance of your true self. Sumiran. Yeah. Yes, Jasmine, thank you. So, and this is what, we kind of, why we hold from time to time these sessions. It is for us to remind ourselves that, oh, I have to come back to myself. I have to come. It's not out there. It's in here. It's not out there. It's in here. Because we forget, because our senses are outbound, they always are looking at something external, so we forget that, oh, there is something which I have to see within also. Like in Gita, they use this metaphor of how a kachua, tortoise, he folds his legs and neck inside of itself, so as if all the senses, we have to turn them to ourselves. And that is when we have a true inner communion, which is very important for us. It's not only for people walking on the spiritual path or some realized masters, it is for each one of us. That's our birthright. It's our birthright to get in touch with our true self. Yeah. And then, of course, good heart comes naturally. But in the meantime, we can again try to be vigilant. Okay, what am I doing? What am I saying? So that vigilance has to be there. Yeah, let's take a little bit more and then we can take reflections. Yeah, it is helpful to be with people who value the things. Anyone who wants to read?
I can read. Till where should I be reading?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. Maybe till here because they are
Genuine?
so
Okay.
genuine. Yeah.
It is helpful to be with people who value the things we value and are sincerely striving towards overcoming their negative qualities and cultivating positive qualities. It is especially helpful to associate with those who are much further along the path than we are, who will be a big inspiration for us. Why do so many people love the Dalai Lama? Because he so completely exemplifies what a genuine human being should be, what everyone wishes they could be. He's a man not only of great wisdom and compassion, but also of great integrity. As he walks by a line of people, he looks into their eyes and he takes their hand for 2 seconds, and their lives are transformed. Because in that moment, not only have they met with a genuine Bodhisattva in the flesh, but they have been looked at by someone who totally accepts them as they are and loves them unconditionally. Whoever they are, they know that. His Holiness doesn't care who you are. He just looks straight into your Buddha's nature and acknowledges that. That's why even a brief encounter is so powerful, even though they only meet him for 2 seconds. We can be with other people for hours and feel nothing particularly significant. But His Holiness and the great lamas or other spiritual beings of that caliber have a great effect on people because they are so genuine.
Thank you. Yeah, anyone? Anything coming to you? I'm reminded of what mother used to say, that when she used to play lawn tennis, even at a very later age, like 70s, she started playing again. And she would say that I always used to play lawn tennis with people who were very evolved than me, like maybe like some notches higher than me. And she says that I never won, but I always learned. So how beautiful! What an attitude, really. Because we so continuously live from this sense of lack, as we discuss again and again. So, and in that we always want some kind of addition from outside. That okay, I want to win so that I can feel, oh, I am something. And if one has a true, one can say, passion for learning, or just wanting to learn all the time, or trying to perfect oneself, refine oneself, whether it's mind, it's heart, or the body, or any skill, anything, the way of speaking. So then I think it keeps our feet on ground. No? It prevents us to be up in the air, because whoever is up in the air will one day come down. जो चूने वो ढही पड़े. जो ऊपर गया उसको नीचे आना ही आना. It's the law how things work. So when I am always wanting to learn, what Taru was sharing earlier, that always not satisfied with myself. Mother says self-satisfaction is one of the worst obstacles. That मेरा हो गया, अब दूसरों की बारी है change करने की. Worst obstacles. So no matter, even if I have been on any kind of a path, not even spiritual, any kind of a path, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, whole my life, it doesn't matter. And as you were sharing that, actually, the more we go deeper, we realize that, oh my God, this is Anant. There is no end to learning. And that's where a complete grounding happens, and you know, learning, and refining of an art or life happens. And we have enough examples of that. People who are so grounded and yet all the time ready to learn. How can I make this perfect? Oh, is this not good? So very humble, very genuine, and wanting to perfect whatever art or work or whatever they are engaging with. Even I may have cooked in my life for 30 years, and now it happens many a times, when one becomes like, role changes from a daughter to mother and then mother-in-law or whatever, when our role is changing, we feel that, oh, I have done it for 30 years, I can't be wrong. I know the technique, but we realize that even to the technique there can be so many improvisations if we are a true learner. So yes, yes, Deepa, go ahead. The first few lines I was
Yeah.
talking of. Yeah, please go ahead.
I think if she wants to read, then I'll come back later.
No, I totally dispensable. Please go ahead.
Okay, so sometimes I feel like somebody mentioned about oscillation, and I think I do a lot of that. I oscillate between the good friends and the not so, I won't say not so good, but somehow it sounds like that, not so good friends. Um, what happens is, how do I reduce this time that I spend with these friends who may not bring the best out of me. Also, like, what I feel is, to elaborate more, a lot of times me, or maybe a lot of other people also, are reflectors. It depends on the company that we keep. I notice that some people bring the best out of me, and with some people I do engage in crass talk, So, like I was telling Taru also the other day, that they're good friends. I like their company, but at the same time, you will see very often that the person who's not there in the group is being spoken about. And I may not actively participate, but I'm a listener, and I may add my 2 bits to it also. So, but when the meeting is over, when I'm back home, then I'm again thinking, it leaves a little bitter taste in my mouth, like I didn't do the right thing. Somewhere that thing in me is there, which keeps clawing at me, that this was not required, this was not to be done, because you do engage with the person you've spoken bad about, right? And then, I guess, in a way to assuage that guilt as well, then I get back into good company. Then I go back to my spiritual friend, and I may kind of talk about this, or talk about things that I've been holding on for many many years. Some events that may have caused me trauma, but it might have been very very old incidents, and then my friend gives me a certain insight about how it is impacting me more than anyone else, who's even probably the person who caused that trauma does not know about it, or does not remember, or does not care about it, but how it has affected me more than anyone else. So this, what happens is, with the good friend, okay, I get back to what my actual inner self is, my core inner nature. But when I'm with the group of friends with whom I'm doing some trash talking, I go back to a self which is just for a peer pressure or a peer company, but you've moved so away from your core self that it actually again comes back to you, leaving you very dissatisfied. So this kind of oscillation that happens for me, wherein the good company keeps me in good stead, but then I again gravitate towards the peer pressure based company. How do I reduce that? Why does it make me feel bad, and yet I go back to it? And that kind of confusion is there.
Beautiful. Yeah. I think, why does it make me feel bad? It's isn't that a beautiful thing that you are feeling bad when you are doing something which is not aligned with your truth? To be glad that, oh my God, I have this inner compass which is telling me. Now it's doing its job. That, oh, poison, 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 poison. But I am not listening. I am drinking the poison. Why? Because I am habituated to the poison. And old habits die hard. It's true. So it's like the example that Jetsunma shares is like if there is a forest and you have been walking in a forest on a particular way through years and ages, then if you see that grass on that particular path would not grow, because it leaves like a trail. Okay, here I can walk, because we have been walking, other people have been walking. And now if you want to create something, some new path for you, you will have to tread first a place where it's all grassed up. It's like there is no clear trail. But again and again you will feel compelled to take the path which is already cleared up. Why shouldn't I take that? I have been walking here for ages now because it is familiar. It may not be benefiting, but it is familiar. So slowly what happens, owing to this presence of inner compass that you were sharing, and how glad can we be that we have this inner compass which is awake, which is giving us this sense of uneasiness when we are doing something not aligned with our true nature. This is the inner compass of our soul consciousness. That's why I was sharing, it's not very hard to get in touch with soul consciousness. Somebody in you tells you that this is not the right place to go. Now I don't listen. Why I don't listen? Because of old patterns, old habits. But now I have the choice, because of that uneasiness, I have the choice that, oh, I know how uneasy it makes me. Now this time I am going to take that other trail, which is maybe full of grass. I don't know how I would be, but not this one for sure. Now slowly, this is your willpower that you are using. Familiarity tells you to go down the slippery slope, owing to peer pressure or whatever. But now you don't even want to be good in anybody's eyes. नहीं देते आपको respect, नहीं देते आपको प्यार, तो अच्छा ना दें, but मुझे उस तरफ नहीं जाना. So now you begin to carve a new path, and Jetsunma says that now the more often you begin to go to that new trail, that actually becomes like a solid trail, like grass is not there now. And in the other place, grass has grown up. So now there it's impossible to return. It's like a U-turn is now impossible for you. But for a long time, it happens that pendulum-like movement, what you were sharing, which is a part of the process, you can't deny it. We can be glad actually that the pendulum-like movement has started. It means that something in us also is liking the taste of something higher, it's purer. So that thing is awakening. That's why pendulum-like movement. And it's a part of, that's the design of creation. No one of us here can ignore that, or let bypass that. We can't. Yeah. Yeah, anyone? Anything here? Anything to add on? I think this is also nice. It paints a quite nice picture that it's, imagine, people living together who are, all the people are working, whatever, on themselves. It becomes so much easier to live together. This would be possible someday, I'm sure, for each one of us. That each one of us is working on himself, on herself. I am working on my anger, you are working on your anger. I am seeing my patterns, you are seeing your patterns. It becomes so easy to, and there is actually more love and less conflict when we are like that. So again, the immediate attention may go on people around me that, but वो तो नहीं कर रहा है ना, वो तो नहीं कर रहा, मैं कर रही हूँ, तो एटलीस्ट हम तो करें. Because that's what we can do. We can work on ourselves. That comes most handy, most close to us. And I think this thing also, in which direction I see this is usually most of the times we are all about ourselves in the head. मैं कौन हूँ, मेरी पोस्ट क्या है, मैं कितने साल से पाथ पे हूँ, मैंने कितने चैलेंजेस ओवरकम किए हैं ना, देखो कितनी लिबरेशन पाई है, कितनी प्रोग्रेस करी है ना, कोई मुझे देखे, अप्रूव करे. वी आर ऑल अबाउट अवर सेल्व्स. So when she's talking about Dalai Lama, what is so beautiful is that it is possible that we become actually self-forgetful. Forget who I am. Please, talking to ourselves that please let me forget who I am. And giving full attention to the person in front of us or whatever, the interaction that we are engaged, the work in front of us. And then it's like always the heart is full of that. Whenever we are giving ourselves, the heart is full of joy. Although we are asking and asking for joy and happiness all the time, that कहीं से मिल जाए, बस कहीं से मिल जाए, बस कहीं से मिल जाए, और ये जानना that everybody is seeking, वो भी ये कह रहे हैं भाई बस कहीं से मिल जाए, बस कहीं से मिल जाए. So can I be one beggar less? And it's a great joy in being not a beggar. Because when we give ourselves, when we offer our presence, time, energy, effort, and we don't demand anything in return, because we genuinely want to do that, it's a joy. Self-giving is a joy. Either in love or in work, in family, all of us, I'm sure we all have experiences, especially mothers. Because there it's like a compulsion, now there is a baby who has come out of you, and it's like it comes very naturally to self-give. Very natural. And not to demand that the child may actually throw something at you, but you don't bother. How easily mothers can take it, especially when children are little. अच्छा फेंक दिया तो फेंक दिया, बच्चा ही तो है. And even then you make the roti for the child, you hug him, you caress him, whatever. So unconditional. So I think with mothers it's as if like we have a visual example in front of us that अच्छा ये भी possible है. That we give and give because we genuinely want to give, and we don't want anything in return, because all we want is the benefit of the child. So the child may insult, reject, call you names, how bad you are, how cruel mother, but you take it in your stride. Yeah, it doesn't matter actually. Ignore it. So that unconditionality, either in, I think we can practice, we can cultivate it, that unconditionality, that okay, let me offer myself fully. We were talking about this yesterday or day before yesterday, that whatever is in front of me, can I offer myself fully? To some people actually it may appear कि इसको चाहिए क्या, ये ऐसे क्यों इतने प्यार से काम कर रहा है, हमें आदत नहीं है, कि इसको पैसे भी नहीं मिल रहे हैं, इसको कोई ओहदा भी नहीं मिल रहा, क्यों ऐसे ये किसको दिखा रहा है. Actually people may think like that, but that doesn't matter. Of course our dhyan is not on people. And the idea is that can I just for one moment be self-forgetful. Mother talks about it in prayers and meditations, that what a joy is self-abnegation. That for a moment this limited self doesn't matter. Totally. That's joy, and we all are seeking joy. Yeah. I speak too much, I know. At times I miss my sessions because I know I speak too much, and that's why I cancel them. That oh, Taru knows. Yeah, so any last comments? We can maybe share last comments and after.
Ma'am, the first thing that I've read in the beginning of this session, can you share a screenshot of that in the group, please?
Yeah, the vows that you read?
Yes.
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
Yes, Jasmine, please go ahead.
No, I was going. Can you go back to the verse coming back to that. I was thinking, in company of a good spiritual friend, it says that one's own, no, where is it all good? To consider him even more precious than oneself, something like that. Was it?
Yeah, here in
To
front of you,
consider.
these 4 lines, are you talking
Yeah.
about these?
Yeah. So not in terms of like a person friend, but whatever in life sort of, the teachings or the lessons we get sometimes, no matter, and sometimes I comes in front of that, right? So to actually make it more important that's how I look at it. And that's how it came to me that sometimes that lesson, spiritual friend or anything, and that's what I meant, like, to consider that's more important. That's how I look at this verse, not in terms of spiritual teacher, because I think life in itself inherently is kind of there to evolve us. If you keep that aspiration, then even there is no such thing as good friends or bad friends in that sense. And the experience is within, like how Taru said. And I think that's what I was trying to. It's hard to put into word because it's sort of like a very raw knowing or a feeling that I have underlying, and it hasn't fully formed in words. But there's always this that there is really no distinction between right and wrong, and to include all. And even in the same time, I feel my own limitation in worldly interaction. But behind that is that aspiration of having compassion for all. So in that's what I was trying to get back at. And I think Taru spoke on the same lines. Basically, the experience is within ourselves. बोल देते हैं चाहे वो discernment कह ले चाहे वो judgment कह लें, but it's really within ourselves. So, and what we live with, even if the person is good or bad, it's at the end it's my story somehow I find. But I think the other good thing I'm taking from this session, another reminder is, you need to stay in touch with that spiritual self. How you said, Mother said, the psychic being. It's very, very important, and because that's like the resource we have to deal with things. Because I think I don't know how long I've been on this journey. I think as long as kitne lifetimes hai, but the more I'm learning, even formally trying to read and all that, I just feel more and more dumber. कुछ भी नहीं पता ही. Seriously, in that sense. Still, in that sense, I think what that has brought is and being at ease with myself, even with my thoughts, even with my opinions, even with my judgment. So, there's an ease, or you can say being more present in the current experience, bringing that ease. So even when somebody was talking about how I go in the bad company and I judge, and then I come back to the good company, I think in experience, if you look at it, just you're sort of judging yourself too there. But if you bring that ease even into that your own thinking, that process, and hold it lightly, you'll see your other, you can say spiritual self, higher self, or that core comes out naturally. I just find it's the way our mind sometimes entangles us with कि जैसे मैंने किसी चीज से लड़ना है, rather than लड़ना है, just like छोड़ दो, and then it naturally eases. For me personally, that practice has really helped me in the past couple of months. कि वो पता नहीं क्या fix करना था, rather just like छोड़ने में it will happen on its own. It happened organically. And again, it's an ongoing process, but I thought ease, that's the thing I find myself. I work with that word, bringing just ease, at ease I am with whatever is happening. Because I think life, inherently to life, it's neutral, right? It's nothing really good or bad. So sometimes I find in practicing that helps me to bring that ease, because mind to chalta hi rehta hai, chahe wo sort of wisdom he ho, but those wide words, that wisdom or good jo spiritual teachings hote hai, but in that moment I get still kind of moved away from the moment, instead of chahe wo अच्छे तरीके से मुझे लग रहा हो, but rather than easing into what's happening in the present, it really helps. help me. I don't know if I make sense or not. So yeah. So no, I was saying just bringing myself more to the present and in the moment, whether I can sit with this moment with ease. And then naturally, sometimes wisdom appears, sometimes your own fears, darkness appears. So for me, that's been a bit of interesting experience. Something I'm experimenting with.
Yeah, anyone else wants to add on before we end? Okay, so let's end here and we can take a moment of silence before we leave.
Yeah, Jagan
Sharing.
wanted to see those verses. I think he
No,
had
he
a
wants me to
question.
send.
Acha,
Send the
send. Acha,
verses.
sorry. I thought he said share. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'll send them on the group. Yeah. So just taking last moment to share, dedicate all the clarity, understanding, whatever we have, which is good, with all the sentient beings. May all of us have ease, content, peace in the heart, simple minds, and lots of progress and joy in our life.